It was an ordinary day when the news broke across the world like a thunderclap. The Intergalactic Council had made its decision. Humanity was to be exterminated, not because humans had ever posed an immediate threat to the galaxy in terms of military power, but because the Council believed humanity's chaotic nature was dangerous to the broader harmony of the stars. The Council's representatives, a coalition of ancient and highly advanced alien races, issued their final decree in a cold broadcast viewed by every corner of the Earth in their minds. Humans were wild animals, incapable of mastering the delicate balance of peace and cooperation required to exist within the galactic community. This judgment was years in the making, the product of countless years of observation and scrutiny, and now there was no turning back. Earth's fate was sealed. The alien broadcast continued, speaking of the inevitability of humanity's eradication. It was just a matter of time before the Council's fleets would arrive and execute their judgment with overwhelming force. Humanity would be wiped out in an instant, their resources seized and their colonies obliterated. The broadcast was followed by an official warning for all humans to surrender or face annihilation. The Council gave humans no chance to defend themselves, no opportunity to plead their case. This was their decision, and it was final. Across the globe, panic erupted. People cried out in fear, but there was something else in the air as well, something electric, a sense of defiance. Humanity was nothing if not stubborn, and if anything, this pronouncement from the aliens only deepened their resolve. They had been told they would die, but no one had bothered to ask whether humanity was willing to go quietly into that good night. As the rest of the world trembled, the leaders of the human race gathered in secret in underground bunkers and hidden spaces. They knew the Council would not wait long to make good on their threat. The countdown had begun, but in these quiet rooms ideas were taking root and plans were being made. They couldn't stop the inevitable fleet from coming. They couldn't possibly fight an enemy so powerful. But there was one thing humanity had that the aliens couldn't predict, and that was the will to survive. The plan wasn't fully formed yet, but there were whispers of something massive, a project hidden deep within the Earth's surface, a vessel unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, reverse engineered from the scattered pieces of alien technology humans had acquired over the years. It was a ship built for escape, not for battle. But what it lacked in firepower, it more than made up for in speed and ingenuity. It could vanish into the stars without a trace, a single vessel capable of carrying humanity's best and brightest off the dying world before the aliens could arrive. Humanity's leadership knew the ship would be their only chance at survival, so the underground networks went to work quickly gathering the necessary materials. The brightest engineers and scientists humanity had to offer were brought together in secret to complete the ship in time. The hope was simple: if they could escape the Council's wrath, they could survive long enough to regroup and one day return to take back their home. They didn't know if they would succeed. They didn't know if they would survive the journey, but they knew they had no other choice than to try. As the clock ticked down, humanity began its first steps into the stars, but they had no idea that the Council's decision to eliminate them would ignite something far beyond their control. A spark of rebellion would be lit, and they would never see what was coming next. The final preparations were underway deep beneath the surface of the Earth. The humans had been working tirelessly to complete the ship known only to a select few as the Ark. It was a vessel born out of desperation and secrecy, a last-ditch effort to escape the imminent death sentence that loomed over them. The Ark was no ordinary ship. It was a fusion of scavenged alien technology and human ingenuity, a design created from the fragments of alien crafts that had been encountered and reverse-engineered over the years. It was fast, powerful, and capable of evading any alien tracking systems, though it had never been tested in real space conditions. Its builders were confident that it would work if only given the chance. As the countdown to the Council's fleet arrival continued, the air was thick with tension throughout humanity's underground hideouts across the globe. Families were torn apart as people made choices that would determine who would board the Ark and who would be left behind. While the majority of the population was still oblivious to the ship's existence, a small group of military leaders, scientists, and engineers knew that they had no time to waste. The Ark could carry only a small number of humans, but it was the key to their survival, their only hope, and the ship's launch window was rapidly closing. The humans were under constant threat. As they worked, the Council's fleets could arrive at any moment, and even though the Ark was a technological marvel, its stealth capabilities couldn't protect it from an all-out assault. But it didn't matter, because in the minds of those working on it, there was no other choice. The stakes had never been higher, and they had to succeed no matter the cost. Then came the moment when everything was ready. The final launch sequence was triggered with a resounding thrum. The massive ship rumbled to life, its engines igniting with an intensity that reverberated through the rocky chambers of its hidden launch bay. The air was thick with anticipation and fear. As the final checks were made, everything was aligned. The Ark's crew had been chosen carefully. Only those with the skills to survive and rebuild the future were selected to board the ship. The human race had been reduced to this small, desperate group, but they were all that remained of humanity's last hope. As the launch door slid open, a brilliant light pierced the darkness of the launch chamber outside. The Earth's sky stretched above them in eerie calm. It was the first time many of the passengers had seen the stars in years. They had been trapped on Earth in the shadows of an uncertain future. Now they were free, at least for now, but that freedom came at a heavy price. Their home was left behind, and they didn't know if they would ever return. The Ark rose into the atmosphere with speed that would have left any ordinary ship in its wake. It was a silent escape, one that no one could detect. As it passed through Earth's final boundaries, it soared into the void of space, where the Council's ships couldn't reach. Not yet, anyway. For a brief moment, it was a fragile victory. They had escaped the Council's wrath, but it was only the beginning of their struggle. Inside the Ark, the passengers could only wonder what would become of the world they had left behind. Would it be destroyed by the Council's fleet, or would there be hope left for those who hadn't made it aboard the Ark? No one could say for certain, but one thing was clear: humanity had done the impossible. They had escaped death itself, and now they had to figure out how to survive in a galaxy that had already condemned them to extinction. As they ventured deeper into the stars with no clear destination, they faced the uncertainty of what was to come. The Ark was their sanctuary, but it was also their prison. There was no turning back now. All they could do was move forward into the unknown. Life aboard the Ark was not the peaceful sanctuary that many had hoped for. The small group of survivors from Earth faced the vast emptiness of space, with no guarantee of safety or survival. Yet within the quiet hum of the ship, there was a growing sense of determination. The humans were not going to simply drift in space waiting to die. They had escaped death, but now they needed to find meaning in their survival. The Ark's passengers were a mix of military personnel, engineers, doctors, and scientists, each with a singular purpose: to keep the ship running and to figure out how to survive in this new world they had entered. Many were familiar with the technology aboard the ship, but none had ever worked with anything so advanced. It was a daunting challenge, but they had no choice. The Ark systems were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, powered by energy sources that were centuries ahead of their time. They had to learn how to operate and maintain these systems, or risk running out of food, oxygen, or fuel in deep space. Despite the overwhelming obstacles, the humans worked tirelessly to keep the ship operational. The engineers began studying the alien technology, not just for survival, but for its potential. Humanity's strength had always been its creativity and adaptability, and this new frontier demanded those very qualities. They began to modify and upgrade the Ark systems, not just to keep them alive, but to make them powerful enough to defend themselves against whatever the galaxy might throw at them. They couldn't rely on running forever. At some point they would need to fight. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the humans began to notice something remarkable. The Ark was not as isolated as they thought. They were not alone in the vastness of space. There were other ships out there, some far off in the distance, others closer, but each was part of something greater, a network of planets and outposts that stretched across the galaxy. These were human colonies left behind when the Intergalactic Council's forces had first arrived to destroy humanity. Some had resisted, but most had been abandoned in the wake of the Council's overwhelming military presence. Through their sensors, the humans aboard the Ark began to pick up signals from these distant colonies, some faint, some stronger, but all were humans calling for help or reporting their survival. The idea that they were not the only ones left filled the crew with a new sense of purpose. If there were other humans out there, There was hope humanity hadn't been completely wiped out. After all, they weren't just a dying species, they were survivors, and if they could find each other, they could begin to rebuild. Soon the Ark became more than just a ship of refugees. It became a symbol of resistance to the Council's brutal decree. The humans didn't just want to escape, they wanted to fight back. They began to send out messages to the colonies, encouraging them to join the Ark's cause, to unite under one banner and take the fight to the Council. There was power in numbers, and the humans knew they couldn't win alone. This spark of rebellion spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Colonies that had been isolated for years began to respond to the call for unity. Some had been waiting for such a chance for so long, others had never thought they would see their fellow humans again. But as their communications grew stronger and more organized, a new alliance formed, one built on the principle of resistance. The humans would no longer be passive survivors, they would become active participants in the struggle to take back their future. But the Council was not blind to what was happening. They had long feared humanity's unpredictable nature, and now they saw the growing resistance as a real threat. They would stop at nothing to stamp it out, but the spark of rebellion was already burning bright, and the humans had no intention of letting it be extinguished. Now that they had tasted survival, they were ready for something more. They were ready to take the galaxy back. The humans' resistance had grown in both strength and numbers since the Ark's escape from Earth, but they had no illusions about the road ahead. Their initial success in surviving the Council's wrath had only bought them time. They were still deeply outmatched by the technologically superior alien forces that patrolled the galaxy. The Council was vast and ruthless, and they would never stop hunting down humanity until every last trace of the species had been wiped away. But the humans had something the Council couldn't foresee: their ability to think differently, to use their ingenuity and resourcefulness in ways no one else could. After months of rallying scattered colonies and forming alliances, the Resistance finally made a bold decision. They would strike the first blow against the Council, an act of defiance that would prove humanity was no longer just running for its life. They would take the fight directly to the enemy and show the galaxy that they could no longer be ignored. The target was an alien supply convoy, one that was transporting valuable resources to the Council's fleet in a distant sector. The convoy was well protected by alien warships, but it was a perfect opportunity for the humans to test their mettle in combat. The humans had learned quickly how to make use of their new technology aboard the Ark. They had no fleet of their own, but they had small strike teams composed of ships equipped with makeshift weapons scavenged from various alien crafts and repurposed to fit their needs. They were quick, stealthy, and deadly. Using their knowledge of the enemy's tactics, they could outsmart and outmaneuver larger ships that would have otherwise overwhelmed them. The humans had an advantage in their unpredictability and determination, and they were about to use it to full effect. The first strike was a thing of beauty and chaos at the same time. A small group of human ships attacked the convoy under the cover of darkness. Their ships darted in and out of the convoy's defenses like shadows, their movements unpredictable and erratic. The alien ships struggled to track them as the humans launched their attacks from unexpected angles, disrupting the convoy's formation and creating confusion among the alien forces. The humans didn't have the sheer firepower of the Council's fleets, but they made up for it with precision and cunning. The aliens, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human assault, scrambled to respond, but it was already too late. In a matter of hours, the convoy was decimated, its precious cargo stolen or destroyed. The humans had not only destroyed a significant portion of the Council's resources, but they had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity was not dead, and it was not afraid to fight back. News of the raid spread quickly through the Resistance network, and the human colonies that had been scattered across the galaxy began to buzz with excitement. The first victory against the Council had been won, and it was not just a victory of arms, but a victory of hope. The humans had shown that they could take the fight to the enemy and survive. They had proven that their spirit was unbreakable, and now the galaxy knew it. The Council, however, was not pleased by this turn of events. They had long underestimated humanity's capacity for resistance, But now they were forced to reckon with it. They would not let one small victory stand unchallenged, and soon their forces were mobilizing to retaliate. The council would come for the humans with everything they had, but the humans, emboldened by their success, were ready for whatever came next. The first strike had been a warning to the galaxy, but now it would be the beginning of something much larger. Humanity had made its mark, and they were not going to be erased again. In the depths of space, where the Ark and its new allies were hiding, the humans began to prepare for the next phase of their struggle. The fight was just beginning, and they were ready to show the galaxy that they would not just survive but rise to lead the charge against their oppressors, no matter the cost. As the humans continued their relentless campaign against the Council, the galaxy began to change. The very act of resistance sparked a chain reaction among the oppressed species that had long lived under the Council's iron fist for generations. The Council had ruled with fear and brutality, imposing their will on countless worlds, forcing countless species into submission, but humanity's defiance ignited a new fire across the stars. Worlds that had once felt hopeless in the face of overwhelming alien power began to stir with the possibility of rebellion. The Council's oppression was no longer unquestioned, and with every successful raid and each victory the humans achieved, others began to believe that they, too, could fight back. The first to join humanity's cause were those who had already suffered under the Council's tyranny: outlawed races, enslaved colonies, and scattered rebel groups who had been waiting for a moment like this. Some had long lost their ability to hope, but now they saw a way forward. Humanity had shown them that a small, determined group could challenge the Council's empire and live to tell the tale. They were not alone anymore. The humans, quick to recognize this growing support, reached out to these scattered factions, offering aid, unity, and a shared cause. They weren't just fighting for their own survival anymore. They were fighting for the freedom of every oppressed race in the galaxy, and as more and more alien species joined their ranks, the human-led resistance began to evolve into a vast, multi-species alliance, one that was united by the simple idea that no one should be enslaved, and no one should be condemned by a galaxy-spanning empire that viewed them as expendable. At the heart of this alliance stood humanity, a race that had once been condemned to extinction, but now found itself at the forefront of a galactic revolution. The resistance grew stronger with each passing day, and the once dominant Council found itself on the defensive for the first time in centuries. The humans, once scattered and on the run, had become the rallying point for the galaxy's underdogs. They had shown that hope could still flourish in the darkest corners of space, and now that hope was spreading like wildfire. However, with this new strength came a new set of challenges. As the alliance grew, so did the complexity of its leadership. The humans had long relied on their own military and political structures to coordinate their efforts, but now they found themselves in charge of an alliance that included numerous alien races, each with their own agendas, histories, and methods of warfare. The Council's forces may have been fractured, but so too were the many factions that had joined humanity's rebellion. There were new tensions, old grudges, and cultural divides to overcome. Humanity's leadership was tested as they tried to unite their new allies under a common banner, but there was one thing they all agreed on: defeating the Council was the only way forward, and with this shared goal, they set aside their differences, forming a council of leaders from every race and species in the Alliance. This new leadership body, forged in the fires of battle and united by a common cause, would be humanity's strongest weapon yet. Meanwhile, the Council was not oblivious to these changes. They saw the growing strength of the resistance and began to panic. Their once invincible control over the galaxy was crumbling, and they would stop at nothing to destroy the Alliance before it could gain any more power. They knew that humanity was the key to the entire rebellion's success, and so they turned their full attention to eradicating them. The humans, however, had long anticipated the Council's response and were ready for the next phase of their struggle. Now, with a massive, multi-species fleet under their command, they prepared for their biggest strike. Yet they would go on the offensive and deal a blow to the heart of the Council's power, its centralized military command and supply hubs. The Alliance's combined forces had the numbers, the strategy, and the will to win, but they still had to face the might of an empire determined to crush them. The stakes were higher than ever before. The galaxy was on the brink of all-out war, and humanity, once a species sentenced to extinction, was now leading the charge for freedom across the stars. The Council may have been powerful, but the spark of rebellion had already ignited a fire that could not be extinguished, and it was only a matter of time before the Council's empire crumbled beneath the weight of the galaxy's resistance. Now the humans and their allies had to do the impossible: take the fight to the heart of the Council itself and claim victory before it was too late. The Council's retaliation came swiftly and with terrifying force. After humanity's audacious raid on their convoy, the galaxy's most powerful military alliance began mobilizing its vast fleets to crush the human rebellion. Once and for all, they could no longer afford to underestimate the human race. They had seen the chaos humanity's unpredictable tactics could cause, and the damage they could inflict on even the most secure targets. Now the Council would bring everything to bear on the Ark and its allies. It started with small skirmishes on the fringes of human-held space, where fleets of alien warships engaged in hit-and-run tactics, trying to draw out humanity's newly formed resistance fleets. Each time the humans managed to slip away just as quickly as they arrived. Their ships, designed for speed and stealth, were nearly impossible to track by the alien sensors, but it wasn't long before the Council adapted. They began using more advanced scanning technologies and deployed specialized tracking systems aimed directly at the human fleets. The hunt was on. Humanity had no choice but to fight back. They could not afford to run forever. The Ark was their sanctuary, but it wasn't invincible, and the longer they stayed in one place, the more likely they were to be discovered by the Council's ever-expanding forces. So the humans took the fight to them. They didn't stand on the defensive. They countered each Council move with a strike of their own in the same bold and unexpected ways that had worked for them. Before, the humans were more than just a guerrilla force. Now they were becoming a military power to be reckoned with. One of the first successful counterattacks came when the humans used their deep knowledge of alien technology to hack into one of the Council's massive battle stations. Their strike force of human ships, having infiltrated a Council shipyard, triggered a devastating chain reaction that crippled the station's main power grid. The explosion sent shockwaves through the sector, disabling the Council's ability to launch a full-scale offensive in that region. The attack was a clear message. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were striking back and learning from every encounter. The humans weren't just adapting to the Council's tactics. They were outsmarting them every time they encountered the Council's fleets. They used new methods of deception, warfare, and technology that the aliens could never anticipate. They learned to blend human creativity with the alien technology they had scavenged to develop weapons, shields, and ships that would make even the most powerful alien strategists reconsider underestimating them. Word spread quickly among the oppressed species of the galaxy that humanity wasn't just a fleeting threat. It was a force of nature. The Council's influence began to waver as human-led fleets struck at key Council supply routes and strategic outposts one by one. Alien colonies started to defect to the human cause. The galaxy's power balance shifted dramatically as more worlds rallied behind humanity's banner, determined to shake off their chains of oppression and forge their own path. The Council, once confident in their dominance, found themselves caught in a fight they hadn't prepared for. It was one thing to destroy an isolated planet. It was another entirely to battle a rising coalition of angry, resourceful, and fiercely determined beings who had the audacity to challenge an empire that had ruled the galaxy for eons. The tide of the war was turning. The humans, once considered a doomed species, were now at the center of a galaxy-wide rebellion. Their raids were becoming more coordinated and their strikes more precise. The Council was being forced to spread its forces thinner and thinner as their enemies gained ground. With every successful attack, humanity had proven time and again that they could fight their way out of any situation, and now the galaxy's mightiest empire was learning that lesson the hard way. The humans weren't just survivors anymore. They were shaping the future of the galaxy. Their defiance had sparked something larger than themselves. It was the beginning of a new era, and humanity was at its heart. But the Council had not given up the fight. They would come for humanity with all their might. But now the humans were ready for them. The war was far from over, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The time had come for humanity and their newfound allies to strike at the heart of the Council's empire. The Alliance had grown into a formidable force now, with thousands of ships and millions of fighters at their disposal, each race contributing its own strengths to the cause. Their leadership was united, and their resolve was unbreakable, but there was still one obstacle standing between them and victory. Zothar Prime, the Council's primary military command center located on a heavily fortified planet at the heart of the Council's domain. It was the beating heart of their war machine, and its fall would cripple their ability to wage war across the galaxy. The humans knew that this would be their most dangerous operation yet, but it was also their only chance to end the war once and for all. If they succeeded, the Council's coordinated military forces would collapse, and their empire would lose the will and ability to continue fighting. If they failed, the Alliance would be shattered, and the humans' rebellion would be crushed under the weight of the Council's overwhelming power. The Alliance had spent weeks preparing for the assault on Zothar Prime, assembling their fleets in secret and gathering intelligence on the Council's defenses. Every race brought their best weapons and warriors, from the stealthy scouts of the Solari to the mighty heavy artillery of the Kroxian warlords. Each faction had a role to play, and the humans took charge of coordinating the complex attack strategy. They had learned much since the early days of their fight for survival, and now their tactical expertise would be put to the ultimate test. The attack began with a feint. A small strike force launched a diversionary attack on a Council fleet stationed on the outskirts of Zothar Prime's system. This decoy mission was designed to draw the Council's attention and divide their forces, while the main fleet would slip past their defenses undetected. Using their knowledge of the Council's tactics, the humans managed to bypass several layers of security and make their way into the planet's atmosphere before the enemy could react. It was an intense and chaotic battle that raged across the skies of Zothar Prime as the human ships engaged in fierce dogfights with the Council's elite starfighters, taking heavy losses along the way. But the Alliance's forces were relentless, and the Council was slowly beginning to realize the scale of the attack. They had thought they had secured their empire, but they were now facing an unstoppable tide of resistance. As the main assault force broke through the Council's defenses, they began their descent toward Zothar Prime's surface. The objective was clear: capture the Council's central command structure, a massive fortress buried deep within the planet's core. The fortress was shielded by an impenetrable array of defense systems, but the humans had already anticipated this and had developed a daring plan to breach the defenses. They would infiltrate the surface through a series of tunnels and underground passages, hidden passageways used by the Council for their own covert operations within the planet's underbelly. The humans, familiar with these types of complex systems, led the charge, clearing their way through the tunnels and sabotaging key security points, while the alien allies provided backup and ensured that the Council's response forces were kept at bay. Hours of brutal fighting followed as the humans and their allies fought their way through the labyrinthine passages, their weapons and tactics finely tuned to their enemies' weaknesses. They encountered fierce resistance from the Council's elite soldiers, but they pushed forward, never slowing down, driven by the knowledge that if they failed now, the galaxy's hopes for freedom would die with them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of intense combat, they reached the heart of the Council's command center, a massive central hub of control where the fate of the entire galaxy was decided in real time. The humans stormed the control room, taking down the final line of defense and securing the command center in a stunning victory. The fall of Zothar Prime was a devastating blow to the Council. The fortress fell, their military leadership was decimated, and their once unstoppable war machine was now in ruins. The Alliance, having secured the center of Council power, had dealt a blow from which the Empire would never recover. As the smoke of battle cleared across Zothar Prime's surface, humanity stood victorious once again. They had fought alongside their allies and taken down one of the most fortified military strongholds in the galaxy. Now, the Council was shattered, and the galaxy was free to forge its own future. The war wasn't over yet, But the humans had proven that they could achieve the impossible, and the Council's reign had finally come to an end. But even in victory, there was a new beginning, one where humanity would help rebuild the galaxy they had once been driven to destroy. But now, they would lead it toward a new age of peace and cooperation. With the fall of Zothar Prime, the Council's grip on the galaxy shattered, and a new era began to emerge from the ashes of war. Humanity, once a doomed species sentenced to extinction, had become the catalyst for a galaxy-wide revolution. The Council was no longer a force to be reckoned with, its once unstoppable fleet reduced to a broken shadow of its former self. The galaxy's oppressed peoples, united under the banner of the human-led resistance, now looked to the future with a newfound sense of hope and possibility. The alliance, forged in the fires of battle, became the foundation of this new galaxy, a collective of species and civilizations, bound not by fear, but by the shared experience of overcoming tyranny and oppression under humanity's leadership. The different races of the galaxy began to rebuild, their once fragmented cultures and societies coming together in a spirit of cooperation. The old divisions, which had kept the galaxy fractured and divided for so long, began to fade away as the focus shifted toward mutual prosperity and peace. The humans, however, knew that the road ahead would not be easy. While they had won the battle against the Council, the war for peace was just beginning. There were still many challenges to face: rebuilding economies, healing wounds of war, and fostering trust between races that had once been bitter enemies. They had proven their strength on the battlefield, but now they had to prove their ability to build a future worthy of the sacrifices that had been made. In the days following the victory, a Grand Council was established, a governing body composed of representatives from every race and species that had fought in the rebellion. Humanity's role in this new government was not as conquerors, but as leaders who had earned the respect and trust of their allies. The first order of business was the establishment of a galactic treaty, one that ensured the galaxy would never again fall under the tyranny of a single ruling empire. The treaty, known as the Accord of Unity, laid the groundwork for a new galactic order, one based on equality, freedom, and shared responsibility for the well-being of all sentient beings. The Council of Races worked together to draft laws that protected the rights of every individual, regardless of their species or origin, and dismantled the war machine that had once been the Council's strength. In its place, a new era of cooperation, diplomacy, and peaceful coexistence was born. The humans, now revered as the architects of this new order, were tasked with overseeing the rebuilding efforts. Their expertise in leadership, strategy, and diplomacy, honed in the fires of war, made them the natural choice to help guide the galaxy's transition into a time of peace. They worked tirelessly, along with their allies, to rebuild shattered worlds, repair trade routes, and establish new systems of government that were more representative and inclusive. But even as peace began to take root, the humans knew that their role in the galaxy was far from over. They had not just fought to survive. They had fought to create something better, something that would endure for generations to come. And as they stood at the dawn of this new era, they vowed to continue working alongside their allies to ensure that the galaxy would never again fall into the hands of those who sought to dominate it. In the years that followed, the galaxy flourished as a thriving hub of cooperation and innovation. The once oppressed species now took their place as equal partners in the galactic community, contributing their knowledge, culture, and resources to the collective good. Humanity's leadership remained a guiding force, but it was a leadership built on partnership and mutual respect, not domination or conquest. The memory of the Council's oppression became a distant past, a reminder of how far the galaxy had come, and how much the Alliance had accomplished together. The galaxy, now free, was a place where new ideas could flourish, where new alliances could form, and where every species could pursue its own destiny without fear of tyranny or destruction. The humans, who had once faced extinction, had become the guardians of this new galaxy, not through force of arms, but through their unwavering belief in the strength of unity and the power of freedom. They had shown the galaxy that no matter how dark the times may seem, the light of hope could always rise again. And as they looked to the future, They knew that this was only the beginning of their legacy, a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and humanity had led the way.